There are women here who, might not have scholarship money. They have that financial burden. They might not have family that's involved in their academic pursuits. And to have that kind of diminish our success. And, Benedictine College, I don't know if you know a lot about it. It's very competitive academically. I mean, our professors push us a lot more than I believe that other public colleges would. To be there is to be a successful student. And so for people to get through and to graduate from this college is huge. And so I think that when he mentioned his wife and, her role in the family, it's like, yes, that might be your case, but that's not all of our journeys. So it just was hard to hear that. And I'm like, of course she's fine with where she's at. She doesn't have to struggle day to day to try to make ends meet. What's to say if a woman is in a bad situation with, an abuser, or, they can't financially support themselves. So it's like, how dare you tell women that, oh, you got your degree, but that doesn't really mean anything until you marry someone and have their kids. So that for me, I mean, I understand he has opinions, but like I said, I just don't believe that had anything to do with our graduation. And to hear that, I was like, wow, you have no idea what people go through on a daily basis. You only see what you see from the top.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. We have to unfortunately revisit a story that we really should not have to revisit and talk about in what is supposed to be a culturally Christian country. However, stories like this, they are kind of a mask off moment in regards to people who claim to be Christian, but it seems like they're Christian in name only, okay? And I am going to coin the phrase Chinos, right? Christian in name only, okay? And the Chinos are coming out the woodwork claiming that what Harrison Butker said during his commencement speech at Benedictine College, which is a private Catholic college institution, is somehow not Christianity, right? When a lot of people really believe that Christianity just means, well, I can do whatever I want to do. As long as I ask for forgiveness from Jesus, then that means that I'm good, right? I don't have to actually practice what's in the rest of the book or adhere to even just general basic guidelines that are in the Bible in regards to how society should be structured. And that is the only thing that Harrison Butker said when talking about the role of women and how women should be proud of being mothers and wives, okay? He didn't say that women have to be slaves in the kitchen barefoot, okay, popping out 10 babies, okay, for a man that works all day. That's not what he said, right? He didn't say women couldn't go to college or they couldn't work or they couldn't become scientists and doctors and CEOs and all this other stuff that the modern society pushes on women. He just says, listen, it's nothing wrong with being a homemaker, right? It's nothing wrong with embracing your traditional role as a woman. And that is what you should be proud of, okay? Because traditionally, this is what women have done. And that has been the bedrock of society, right? The traditional gender roles, the traditional household that is outlined in the Bible, okay? It has been a very successful formula for making the United States of America the greatest country ever, right? But because we have seemingly abandoned these core values that made this country great in the first place, this is why we're falling off of a cliff, okay? And you would think that Harrison Butker had committed the sin of, I don't know, beating his wife or murdering somebody or being accused of sexual assault or, all the things that NFL players normally get accused of all the time. And there was not this much outrage, right? Like at all. Okay. But again, apparently the worst thing that you can do as an NFL player is to push back against the feminist agenda. Okay. Which is what Harrison Butker did. And now you have the NFL coming out and condemning what he said. Okay. I mean, they've come out and said basically that, hey, we don't really agree with this, okay? They say the NFL released a statement Thursday in which it distanced itself from comments made by Kansas City Chiefs kicker Harrison Butker in a commencement speech at Benedictine College last week. NFL Senior Vice President and Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer Jonathan Bean said in a statement obtained by today's Amy Ely and Samantha Kubata that Butker gave a speech in his personal capacity. Being added, his views are not those of the NFL as an organization. The NFL steadfast in our commitment to inclusion, which only makes our league stronger. Okay, so they are distancing themselves from it, which, hey, it is what it is. He did make that speech in his personal capacity. I personally don't think that any statement is necessary, but that doesn't stop the Kansas City X account. Okay, so this is for the city of Kansas, from trying to dox this man, okay? Because, I don't know, again, apparently he committed a crime, right? To simply state his Christian beliefs. They basically went and posted where he lived on the internet for the world to see. Essentially, again, trying to expose where his family lives, presumably so that the woke activists can show up to his home and to harass him and his family, again, for simply being a Christian, right? If you guys haven't figured out by now, Christianity seems to be the most disrespected religion in this country, okay? It seems as if you cannot openly be Christian without being deemed as some type of hateful bigot that deserves to have their private information doxxed and their families harassed because of it. Again, it really is a shame, the country that we're living in. You also have the Los Angeles Chargers posting weird videos announcing their schedule and having Harrison Butker portrayed as making bread or cooking in the kitchen, right? Basically playing the role, the traditional role that women play, okay? And they're trying to make fun of him, again, as their way to try to get some woke virtue signaling points, right? This is how woke the NFL has become. You have, again, a lot of these people that, work on these social media accounts that are women, okay, they're offended by this, so they decide they're going to go out of their way to try to go after this guy like he's the problem with the NFL, right? Like he is committing an actual crime. Again, this is crazy. It's out of control. And we can't forget about the simps who enable this type of behavior. People like D.L. Hughley, who is a washed-up comedian, coming out here and saying, hashtag Harrison Butker ain't speaking truth to power. He's a young white dude saying the same-ish old white dudes always have. He's retro. Wow. Incredible stuff. Again, there are people who have tried to racialize this and trying to basically demonize the white man, again, for being Christian, okay? This is why, again, when you look at a lot of the backlash against individuals like Trump, the reason why he gets so much backlash and criticism is because of his identity as a straight Christian white man. Now, I've told you guys, the Marxists, the communists see the straight Christian white man as a roadblock to communism/Marxism, okay? Because the straight Christian white man is basically the only thing still holding up capitalism, okay? So again, you always got to connect the dots on how this goes back to trying to implement Marxism and communism, and all of these woke movements are simply a part of that, right? But again, the people are so outraged, these feminists are so outraged, that they're out here responding to what, to me, is obviously a fake quote or fake response by Harrison Butker to this situation. Take a look.
So the controversial kicker who keeps putting his foot in his mouth is saying that we got him all wrong. Now he's saying everyone is taking what I said out of context. All I said was that we should go back to the better time, like the 50s and 60s, where men were men and women had more babies than thoughts. When the only Me Too movement was one woman saying she's ready to have her fourth child and another woman agreeing. Ladies, we have him all wrong. He's not a misogynistic man that thinks that women are just baby factories, whose only purpose in life is to serve men and their children and wait on them hand and foot. No, he wants us to go back to a better time. But better time for who? When women didn't have the right to vote, when women didn't have bank accounts, when women couldn't buy houses on their own, when women were dependent on men. And the only way they would have a decent life is if they married into one, that they couldn't create or establish one on their own. This man really curled his lips to say when women had more babies than thoughts. Your physicist mother must be so proud. And your wife. To think that all she is to you is a quiet baby factory.
Yeah, so again, the outrage is comical at this point. And you know who else is outraged? Of course, some of the cackling hens on The View. But we do have one surprise individual, one surprise cackling hen that's actually defending Harrison Butker's right to free speech. And that is Whoopi Goldberg. But during this conversation, you're going to see some of the cackling hens who, again, claim to be Christian, being upset by, again, what what is Christianity, right? But to say, hey, I'm Christian, but apparently this isn't the way to practice Christianity according to people like Sarah Haynes. So without further ado, let's get into it.
So the NFL released a statement that he gave this speech in his personal capacity, and the NFL does not share his views. So, listen, I like when people say what they need to say. He's at a Catholic college. Yeah. He's a staunch Catholic. These are his beliefs, and he's welcome to them. I don't have to believe him.
Right.
I don't have to accept them. The ladies that were sitting in that audience do not have to accept him.
But again, if you're gonna call yourself a Christian, then you kind of have to, right? You can't say that you're Christian and then just say, well, I just don't believe what the Bible says about the role of women. Like you can't have it both ways. I'm just saying. But I gotta say, shout out to Whoopi. Give credit where credit is due. Again, this is very basic stuff here, okay? But it's so rare in the liberal media that you see somebody actually saying, hey, well, you know what? I might not necessarily agree with it, but he has the right to say what he has to say. He's a Christian speaking at a Christian college, private university. It ain't really that big of a deal, right? Which is what the overall reaction to this should be, okay? But again, because we live in a society that, again, we don't value the traditional beliefs and values that have made this country great anymore. This is what we have, right? Fake outrage.
The same way we want respect when Colin Kaepernick takes a knee.
Right.
We want to give respect to people whose ideas are different from ours, because the man who says he wants to be president, you know who?
Yeah.
He says the way to act is to take away people's right to say how they feel. We don't want to be that. We don't want to be those people. So I'm okay with him saying whatever he says, and the women who are sitting there, if they take his advice, good for them, they'll be happy. If they don't, good for them, they'll be happy a different way. Well, that's my attitude.
So I agree with you and I disagree with you.
That's okay.
So I agree with you that in the spirit of freedom of speech, I don't want people shut down or fired for things they're willing to say. Yeah. I will break with you on the comparison to Colin Kaepernick for this reason. Colin Kaepernick was standing up for the rights of many and saying in a social justice moment, this is a reminder that we're not there yet. What this man is doing is not just a devout Catholic. This is someone who's practicing something called the traditional Latin Mass, which is divergent from the majority of Catholics. It's compared to being cult-like and extremist like some religions in the Middle East and Asia. So this is a very extreme religion, and what bothers me about that as a Christian is that when people abuse Christianity, they often not only cherry pick from the Bible, they misinterpret and lie by omission, by taking out parts that would have explained something a little better. So what?
Wow. Do you guys hear this? Now, this woman, again, claims to be a Christian, but yet she's calling what Harrison is saying extremist, and that he's abusing the religion. And see, this is what I mean, and I tell you guys when I say a lot of these people really do think that Christianity is just, well, I can do whatever I want to do, okay? Doesn't matter what it is, right? Doesn't matter what lifestyle it is. Doesn't matter. Even if it's explicitly prohibited in the Bible, I can do whatever I want to do as long as I ask for forgiveness from Jesus before I die, okay? I'm good. Don't matter. And see, here's the thing that really gets me. She's saying that it's extreme, but the parts of the Bible that I would characterize as, probably a little bit more extreme, right? We don't even do those things. Like, for example, women are allowed to preach. They're allowed to teach. Okay, they have a voice. Women also, when they pray, we traditionally don't require them to wear headscarves or what, you would call a hijab, which is outlined in the Bible. For example, in 1 Corinthians 11-2, it outlines that, hey, women should wear a headdress when they pray. And that the reasoning behind it is because of the role of men and women and how God sees men versus women in society. Now, again, the feminists will be very upset with that verse, right? I would recommend most feminists, again, if you're a Christian feminist, don't read that, right? If you read that passage, you're going to get real upset because it is a thorough explanation of how God views men versus women. And it's in line with what Harrison is saying. But again, according to people like Sarah Hayes, oh no, you're abusing the Bible, right? For simply going along with what the Bible explicitly outlines throughout the whole book, whether that be the Old Testament or the New Testament. And it's not even the stuff that I would legitimately say, hey, you know what? We might not want to do that, okay? We might not want to do that. We might want to just leave this up to God, okay? In regards to how he looks at, people who practice, certain lifestyles. We don't do that. We don't even do that. There's a lot of things we don't even do. But again, it's extreme to just simply state a basic fact about how the Bible sees men versus women, or the role of men versus women, the role of a husband and a wife. And that's being interpreted as a form of bigotry and hate. They want to pretend like this man is trying to take us back to the Stone Ages. And it's just simply not true. I mean, it really blows my mind. Again, what really bothers me, it doesn't bother me to people who, again, if you're not Christian, it doesn't bother me for you to have these beliefs. But what really bothers me is people that say they're Christian, women that say they're Christian, and they're shocked and offended by something that, again, is just explicitly outlined in the Bible. It doesn't make sense to me. That's what really bothers me the most about this.
What I can say to him as a Christian is if you're using this to oppress a people or hold them down, you're not walking with Jesus. If you are using the religion, if you are more obsessed with the religious rituals and practices than you are with the word of Jesus, you're not walking with Jesus. And if you're using it for the judgment of others and as a weapon to beat people down, you're also not walking with Jesus. So I don't
think he used it for any of those reasons. But again, this is what I'm talking about in regards to how, again, I think a lot of people misinterpret the fact that Jesus, at least at the time, treated women a lot differently than how women were traditionally treated, in the sense that, yes, he would speak with women. He forgave women who had committed adultery and got caught, which, again, is something that traditionally would be punishable by death. He basically forgave her and said, hey, don't sin anymore. Okay. He had respect and dignity for women, but what has happened is that a lot of these feminist Christian women have interpreted that as, well, that means that I don't have to be traditional, right? Because, in early Christian ministry, there were women, okay, things like that. They say, well, we just need to abandon the traditional role of women because, Jesus forgave everybody. And, he, again, didn't see women as inferior, okay, like a lot of men did at the time. But I don't think that Jesus ever said that women should abandon their traditional roles as women just because he treated them with more respect and dignity than the average man did at the time, right? Just because he broke some cultural norms. But again, that's the way that it has been interpreted. And this is how you get to this point where, again, I basically believe that these people are essentially saying, well, let's just ignore a vast majority of the Bible because Jesus treated women with respect and dignity, right? This is essentially what the argument is, right?
Really encourage him to find the best parts of faith and not diverge into extremist beliefs.
But if this is his belief system, if there are many Catholics who are staunch this way and don't,
actually small percentage go into the Latin Mass.
I'm just telling you, there are many people who believe this way, and I'm simply saying, rather than write a petition to get him fired because
don't get him fired.
Well, that's what I'm talking about.
The Pope discourages it, just so you know, in the Catholic Church, the Pope diverges from this belief.
It doesn't change the fact.
If I may add, there were things I agreed with. There was a lot I disagreed with. Galatians tells us the whole of the law is fulfilled as this: love your neighbor as thyself. He chose to target the LGBTQ community. Yeah. He thought there was a way that you could speak with humility about your beliefs that you stand for, but you can't alienate certain parts of Scripture. I have this huge issue with this trad wife homemaker thing. What a remarkable privilege. If you get to marry an NFL kicker who wins the Super Bowl, you too might get to be a homemaker in this economy. But also, he ignores the Proverbs 31 woman who goes and she's a leader in her community. She barters in the streets. She earns. She contributes to her household. I see this so much, the melding of political with the faith that ignores half of the Bible and just picks the convenient.
That was...
Yeah, so you seen that, you heard that, okay? Unlikely person with some common sense, okay? Whoopi Goldberg defending Harrison Butker, basically saying he shouldn't be canceled. Now, Whoopi is saying this because she said a lot of things that have been controversial, that have called for her to be canceled, right? And she didn't like that feeling of being canceled for simply stating her beliefs. So I get exactly why she is doing what she's doing, right? She knows that the pendulum swings the other way. A rare moment of wisdom from Whoopi. But again, the fact that we're even having this conversation is really so silly to me. And it really does show you how a lot of people, again, in this country are offended by basic Christian beliefs. It really is astonishing that, at one point in time, this country used to be a culturally Christian country, but it seems as if, we have just completely abandoned that at this point. But let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.